Welcome the rare gems. Have you ever wondered why some women become harder to reach emotionally as they grow older, even though they still love deeply and care about people? For a mature Sigma female, emotional distance is rarely about having no feelings. It is often the result of understanding her feelings much better. Life teaches her that not every connection deserves unlimited access to her heart. She begins to notice patterns, recognize manipulation, and understand the difference between genuine affection and emotional dependency. She may still laugh, love, forgive, miss people, and become deeply attached, but she becomes more careful about who gets close and how much influence they have over her inner world. She has learned that constantly explaining herself, fixing every misunderstanding, or carrying someone else's emotional burden can slowly make her lose herself. This is one reason you may be a Sigma. You have probably learned through experience rather than theory. You question what feels wrong, observe what others overlook, and eventually make decisions that protect your peace and integrity. That does not make you cold. It means you are becoming wiser about where your heart belongs. Stay with me until the end, because the final points reveal the deeper reason mature Sigma females become emotionally untouchable. And if any of this feels familiar, share your thoughts in the comments, tell us your experience, and subscribe to join our community. Let's explore together the rare gems. Number 1, she has already survived the version of herself that needed someone. Her greatest emotional transformation may have happened privately. There is a stage in a woman's life when she realizes something uncomfortable. The person she once thought she could not live without was never actually responsible for keeping her whole. For a mature Sigma female, this realization can change everything. Maybe there was a time when one person's message could completely change her day. If he called, she felt wanted. If he became distant, she started questioning herself. If someone she cared about suddenly changed, she might spend hours replaying conversations, wondering what she had done wrong. But life has a way of teaching lessons that advice never could. Eventually, she experiences enough disappointment, uncertainty, rejection, or emotional confusion to discover that she can survive without receiving constant reassurance from another person. She learns to sit with loneliness without immediately running toward the nearest relationship. She learns to calm herself instead of waiting for somebody else to do it. And that changes her relationship with attachment. She can still love deeply. She can still become emotionally invested. She can still miss someone terribly. But there is now a part of her that knows, I have survived this feeling before. That knowledge is powerful. For example, if someone she loves suddenly becomes distant, the younger version of her might chase explanations, send another message, or desperately try to restore the connection. The mature version may feel the pain, but she pauses. She observes. She asks herself whether the situation deserves her energy, instead of automatically reacting to the fear of losing someone. That is not emotional coldness. That is emotional experience becoming wisdom. And perhaps this is one of the clearest reasons you may recognize yourself as a Sigma female. You did not become this way because you never needed people. You became this way because you discovered that needing someone and losing yourself in them are two completely different things. You have already met the version of yourself who depended too heavily on someone else's presence. You survived her confusion, her attachment, her heartbreak, and her uncertainty. You may still have a soft heart. You simply know how to protect it now. Number 2. She can love someone without handing them the keys to her nervous system. This is a profound distinction. What if you could love someone deeply without allowing their behavior to control your entire emotional world? This is one of the biggest differences between emotional attachment and emotional maturity. A mature Sigma female can care about someone deeply while still remembering that their moods, choices, silence, or disappointment do not belong in the driver's seat of her mind. She may love her partner and still have a peaceful day when he is having a bad day. She may care about a friend and still refuse to carry that friend's anger for them. She may be hurt when someone she trusts betrays her, but she does not automatically turn that betrayal into a judgment about her own worth. That distinction is incredibly powerful. Consider something simple. She sends someone a message and receives no response for hours. An emotionally dependent reaction might be to check the phone repeatedly, create imaginary explanations, or immediately wonder whether she has done something wrong. A mature Sigma female may notice the silence, feel slightly concerned, and continue with her day. She understands that silence contains information, but it does not always contain an answer. The same principle applies when someone becomes distant. She does not pretend it feels good. It can hurt. She can miss them. She can even spend time wondering what changed. But she does not surrender her entire emotional stability to another person's behavior. This is not about becoming detached from humanity, quite the opposite. She can love more honestly because she is not constantly trying to control what another person feels, thinks, or does. She has learned a difficult truth. You can love someone without becoming responsible for their every emotion. And perhaps this is where her maturity becomes truly remarkable. She does not build her identity around being loved correctly by someone else. She knows who she is before the phone rings, before the compliment arrives, before the relationship feels secure, so when someone disappoints her, they may affect her heart. But they do not get ownership of her mind. She can feel the pain, learn from it, and still remain herself. Number 3. Her emotional world becomes smaller but deeper. This is the paradox. Have you ever noticed that as some women mature, their circle becomes smaller, yet the few people they keep close become far more important? This is one of the quiet transformations of a mature Sigma female. She gradually stops measuring her life by how many people know her and starts paying attention to the quality of the relationships she actually has. Earlier in life, she may have maintained friendships simply because they had history. She might have stayed connected to people because they grew up together, worked together, shared the same social circle, or once had wonderful memories. But maturity makes her look at relationships differently. History alone is no longer enough. She begins asking deeper questions. Can I speak honestly around this person? Can I disagree without being punished? Do they respect my private struggles? Do I feel emotionally safe when I am vulnerable? Can we sit together without constantly performing for each other? Those questions completely change who remains close to her. For example, she may have 10 people she can call casually, but only 2 or 3 people she would trust with something deeply personal. And she may be perfectly comfortable with that. She has realized that having dozens of connections does not necessarily mean having meaningful companionship. Her emotional world becomes smaller because she becomes more selective about what enters it. But it also becomes deeper. A conversation with one trusted friend can mean more to her than an entire evening surrounded by people who barely understand her. She values the person who remembers the small details, notices when something is wrong, respects her silence, and does not turn her vulnerability into gossip. This does not mean she thinks everyone is bad. It means she has developed a more sophisticated understanding of emotional safety. She knows that closeness is not automatically earned through time. It is earned through consistency, honesty, respect, and trust. That is why some mature Sigma females can appear socially distant while actually having incredibly rich emotional lives. They are not necessarily lonely. They are simply no longer interested in filling every empty space with another person. They would rather have a small table where everyone is genuine than a crowded room where nobody truly knows them. And that is a powerful form of maturity. Number 4, she no longer argues with reality. Immaturity negotiates with facts. Maybe they will change. Maybe if I explain myself better. A mature Sigma female eventually becomes ruthless about reality. What happens when you finally stop arguing with what someone has already shown you? For a mature Sigma female, this can become one of the most painful and liberating lessons of adulthood. She learns that reality does not become different simply because she desperately wants a different outcome. Earlier in life, she may have spent months trying to explain someone's behavior in the kindest possible way. Maybe they are just stressed. Maybe they did not mean it. Maybe things will improve when they understand how much this hurts me. There is nothing wrong with giving people the benefit of the doubt. The problem begins when the benefit of the doubt becomes a permanent excuse for repeated behavior. Maturity changes the question. Instead of asking, "What could this person become?" she starts asking, "What are they consistently showing me?" That difference can save years of emotional exhaustion. For example, suppose someone repeatedly breaks promises. Every time it happens, they apologize sincerely and promise to do better. The mature Sigma female may accept the apology, but she also watches what happens afterward. If the same behavior continues again and again, she stops treating every apology as evidence of change. The apology may be genuine. The pattern is still real. This does not mean she becomes bitter or assumes everyone has bad intentions. She simply learns to give behavior the same attention she gives words. That is where her emotional untouchability begins to make sense. Manipulation becomes harder when someone is willing to accept reality, even when reality is disappointing. She no longer needs to turn a difficult person into a good person in her mind just to justify staying connected to them. Sometimes the truth is uncomfortable. Someone may care about her and still be incapable of treating her properly. Someone may love her and still be unhealthy for her. Someone may apologize and still repeat the same damage. She learns that understanding someone's reasons does not require tolerating their behavior. That is wisdom. You can understand why someone became who they are without volunteering to be wounded by who they have chosen to remain. The mature Sigma female stops editing the evidence. She reads it, accepts it, and makes her decisions accordingly. Number 5. She has developed a private grief process. She does not necessarily need everyone to witness her pain. What if one of the biggest signs of emotional maturity is learning how to hurt without turning your pain into a public performance? A mature Sigma female may experience heartbreak, disappointment, betrayal, or loss more deeply than people realize. The difference is that she does not always feel the need to make her pain visible while she is experiencing it. When something deeply affects her, she may become quieter. She may take some time away from conversations, social activities, or people who constantly want explanations. From the outside, someone might assume she is fine. Meanwhile, she could be spending nights thinking about what happened, questioning her own decisions, accepting uncomfortable truths, and slowly putting the pieces back together. When something deeply affects her, she may become quieter. She may take some time away from conversations, social activities, or people who constantly want explanations. From the outside, someone might assume she is fine. Meanwhile, she could be spending nights thinking about what happened, questioning her own decisions, accepting uncomfortable truths, and slowly putting the pieces back together. When something deeply affects her, she may become quieter. She may take some time away from conversations, social activities, or people who constantly want explanations. From the outside, someone might assume she is fine. Meanwhile, she could be spending nights thinking about what happened, questioning her own decisions, accepting uncomfortable truths, and slowly putting the pieces back together. She processes before she speaks. For example, imagine she discovers that someone she trusted has been dishonest with her. She does not immediately call 10 friends and tell everyone what happened. She may first sit with the shock. She wants to understand whether she misunderstood something, whether the relationship can be repaired, and most importantly, what this experience has revealed about the person and about herself. For example, imagine she discovers that someone she trusted has been dishonest with her. She does not immediately call 10 friends and tell everyone what happened. She may first sit with the shock. She wants to understand whether she misunderstood something, whether the relationship can be repaired, and most importantly, what this experience has revealed about the person and about herself. That private period can be incredibly important. She's not hiding because she is weak. She is creating enough quiet to hear her own thoughts without everyone else's opinions drowning them out. And something fascinating often happens during this process. She may eventually return to the same people, the same environment, and the same routine. But she is no longer the exact woman who entered that situation. The grief has taught her something. Maybe she has discovered that she ignored certain warning signs. Maybe she realized she stayed too long. Maybe she learned that forgiveness does not require restoring the same relationship. Or perhaps she simply discovered that she can lose someone she deeply loved and still rebuild a meaningful life afterward. That is why her silence can sometimes confuse people. They see the calm after the storm, but they never witnessed the storm itself. By the time she speaks about what happened, she may no longer be asking anyone to rescue her. She has already done the difficult work of putting herself back together. And sometimes that private healing is exactly what makes her emotionally untouchable. Number 6, she becomes extremely difficult to guilt. Guilt works best when someone believes they are responsible for managing everybody else's emotions. Have you ever noticed how some people can make you feel guilty without actually asking you to do anything wrong? They may become unusually quiet when you say no. They may remind you of everything they have done for you. They may say, "I thought you cared about me," or suddenly behave as though your decision has wounded them deeply. If you're used to carrying other people's emotions, moments like this can make you question yourself. A mature Sigma female gradually becomes harder to pull into that trap. She learns an important distinction. Someone being disappointed by her decision does not automatically mean she has mistreated them. That realization can completely change how she handles relationships. For example, suppose a friend asks her to lend money, but she knows she cannot comfortably afford it. In the past, she might have felt terrible saying no. She may have written a long explanation, apologized repeatedly, and perhaps even sacrificed something important just to avoid making the friend uncomfortable. With maturity, she can simply say, "I cannot do that right now." She may still feel uncomfortable. She may even dislike the fact that her friend is disappointed, but she does not automatically interpret that discomfort as evidence that she has done something wrong. This is where emotional maturity becomes powerful. She understands that adults are responsible for managing their own feelings. She can be compassionate without becoming responsible for keeping everyone happy. That does not mean she becomes insensitive. If she hurts someone unfairly, she can acknowledge it. If she makes a mistake, she can apologize. But there is a huge difference between genuine accountability and accepting blame simply because someone is unhappy with her decision. She also becomes less interested in defending every boundary with a 10-minute explanation. Sometimes no is a complete answer. Sometimes I cannot is enough. Sometimes she walks away from an argument because she realizes the other person is not looking for understanding. They are looking for surrender. This is one reason a mature Sigma female becomes emotionally difficult to manipulate. Guilt may still touch her emotions, but it no longer automatically controls her decisions. She can care about people without carrying their feelings on her back. And that is a freedom many people spend years trying to discover. Number 7. She can detect emotional debt. Some relationships secretly operate like loans. Someone gives attention, favors, affection, protection, or gifts, and later expects obedience in return. Have you ever received a favor from someone and later realized they expected you to repay it with something you never agreed to give? This is where a mature Sigma female becomes exceptionally perceptive. She begins to notice that not every act of kindness is completely free. Sometimes people give affection, attention, money, protection, opportunities, or favors while quietly keeping a record in their minds. Nothing is said at first. Then, the moment she makes a decision they dislike, the hidden bill appears. "You remember what I did for you, right?" That sentence can reveal an entire relationship. She starts recognizing emotional debt before it becomes a chain around her decisions. She understands the difference between genuine generosity and generosity being used as future leverage. For example, someone might constantly help her with personal problems. At first, she appreciates it sincerely, but months later, that same person expects her to tolerate disrespect, support a decision she disagrees with, or remain available whenever they demand her attention. When she hesitates, they remind her of everything they have done. A mature Sigma female notices the transaction. She may appreciate what was given, but she refuses to believe that receiving kindness means surrendering her freedom. This does not mean she becomes suspicious of every generous person. That would be another form of immaturity. She simply watches what happens after the favor. Does the person give because they genuinely want to help, or do they eventually use their generosity as a weapon? That distinction matters. Healthy affection says, "I helped you because I cared." Manipulative affection says, "I helped you, so now you owe me." And once she recognizes the second pattern, something inside her changes. She becomes more careful about accepting favors that come with invisible conditions. She would rather hear an honest no than receive a generous yes that comes with a future price tag. This is one of the reasons she can become emotionally untouchable. She is no longer impressed simply by what people give her. She pays attention to what they expect in return. Because real kindness does not quietly build a debt that someone can collect later. And genuine love should never require you to surrender your freedom as payment. Number 8. She can experience rejection without turning it into a verdict on her worth. Rejection still hurts. Maturity does not make her superhuman. What if rejection could hurt you without defining you? A mature Sigma female eventually learns that these are two completely different things. Rejection can sting. It can embarrass her. It can leave her disappointed, especially when she genuinely cared about the person or believed something meaningful could develop. Emotional maturity does not magically remove those feelings. What changes is what she tells herself afterward. Earlier in life, rejection might have triggered a painful chain of questions. Was I not attractive enough? Was I too much? What did she have that I did not? Why was I not chosen? One person's decision could suddenly become evidence against her entire identity. With maturity, she starts separating someone's choice from her worth. For example, suppose she genuinely likes a man and he decides he does not want a relationship with her. She may feel disappointed. She may cry. She may need time to accept it. But eventually, she can say something remarkably healthy. He did not choose me, and that hurts, but it does not mean I am lacking. That is a completely different emotional position. People reject things for countless reasons. Sometimes there is no chemistry. Sometimes their priorities are different. Sometimes they are emotionally unavailable. Sometimes they simply want something else. And sometimes two perfectly decent people are simply not right for each other. Not every closed door is an insult. This understanding protects her from one of the most destructive habits in relationships, trying to become someone else after rejection. She does not immediately change her personality, appearance, standards, or values just to become acceptable to the person who walked away. She may reflect on herself, but reflection is different from self-rejection. And this is where her emotional strength becomes deeper. She can hear no without hearing, "You are not enough." She can lose someone's interest without losing her sense of identity. She can grieve what she wanted without turning the disappointment into a lifelong wound. The mature Sigma female understands that being rejected by one person does not make her undesirable, unworthy, or destined to be alone. It simply means one connection did not become what she hoped it would become. And sometimes that is all the explanation she needs. Number 9. She understands that leaving can be an act of love toward herself. Her departure is not always revenge. Sometimes it is simply recognition. Have you ever reached a point where staying hurts more than leaving, but leaving still hurts? That is a lesson many mature Sigma females eventually learn. Walking away is not always about anger, punishment, or proving a point. Sometimes it is simply the moment she finally accepts what the relationship has been showing her all along. She may have explained the same boundary several times. She may have forgiven the same behavior more than once. She may have given someone opportunities to correct what was hurting her. But eventually, something changes inside her. She stops asking, "How can I make this work?" and starts asking, "What is this costing me?" That question can change everything. For example, suppose someone repeatedly speaks to her disrespectfully, apologizes afterward, behaves well for a few days, and then does exactly the same thing again. Earlier in her life, she might have focused heavily on the apology because she wanted to believe the relationship could improve. A mature Sigma female begins paying closer attention to the pattern. An apology means very little when the behavior keeps returning. This is where her emotional strength becomes visible. She understands that every time she accepts something that deeply violates her boundaries, she teaches the other person what she is willing to tolerate. She may forgive them, but forgiveness does not require continued access to her life. And leaving can be painful. She may cry after walking away. She may miss the good memories. She may question whether she made the right decision. Emotional maturity does not mean feeling nothing. It means being capable of feeling something deeply without allowing that feeling to make every decision for you. This is why her departure can look surprisingly calm. She is not necessarily trying to hurt anyone. She has simply recognized that protecting a relationship at the expense of herself is not love. Sometimes loving yourself means staying and working things out, and sometimes it means quietly closing the door, grieving what could have been, and refusing to keep paying for a relationship with pieces of yourself. That is not cruelty, that is wisdom earned through experience. Number 10, the real reason she becomes emotionally untouchable is that she finally belongs to herself. This is the deepest point. She is not untouchable because she stopped feeling. She became untouchable because she stopped abandoning herself whenever she felt something. What does it really mean for a woman to become emotionally untouchable? It does not mean she stopped loving. It does not mean betrayal no longer hurts, or that losing someone has become meaningless. In fact, she may feel things more deeply than people realize. The difference is that she no longer abandons herself whenever those feelings become overwhelming. That is the real transformation. There may have been a time when love could make her forget herself. She could become so invested in keeping someone close that her own needs became an afterthought. Someone's happiness became her responsibility. Someone's distance became her crisis. Someone's rejection became a question about her worth. But maturity teaches her something much deeper. She belongs to herself first. For example, she can fall deeply in love with someone and still maintain her friendships, interests, values, routines, and private thoughts. If that person eventually leaves, she will hurt. She may cry. She may miss them terribly. She may even wish things had ended differently. But she does not lose the entire structure of her identity with the relationship. The person left. She remained. That realization changes how she experiences attachment. She understands that another human being can become incredibly important without becoming the owner of her emotional world. Love can enter her life without replacing her identity. Loss can break her heart without destroying her future. Betrayal can change the way she trusts without turning her permanently bitter. This is why calling her emotionally untouchable can be misleading. She is touchable. She has a heart. She gets disappointed. She gets lonely. She can become vulnerable. She can desperately miss someone she knows she should leave behind. But she has developed something stronger than emotional numbness. She has developed emotional self-possession. Her inner world has become a place she can return to when everything outside becomes uncertain. Other people can be welcomed into that space. They can be loved deeply. They can create beautiful memories there. But they cannot own it. And if they leave, she does not have to leave with them. That is perhaps the deepest form of emotional freedom. She can love you completely without losing herself completely. In final words, sometimes the strongest heart is not the one that feels less, but the one that refuses to lose itself while feeling deeply. Perhaps that is the real meaning behind the mature Sigma female becoming emotionally untouchable. She did not become this way because she stopped caring. She became this way because experience taught her to care without abandoning herself. She learned to recognize patterns, respect her boundaries, accept difficult truths, and walk away when remaining would cost too much of her identity. She still loves. She still gets hurt. She still misses people. She still has moments when disappointment feels heavy. But she no longer allows one person's behavior to become the definition of her entire emotional world. And if you recognize yourself in this, perhaps this is part of what makes you Sigma. You have learned to think deeply, observe carefully, question what does not make sense, and grow through experiences that many people would rather avoid. Your strength is not that nothing affects you. Your strength is that what affects you can also teach you. So keep growing. Protect your heart without closing it. Stay compassionate without abandoning your wisdom. And remember that belonging to yourself is not selfish. It is the foundation that allows you to love others without disappearing inside them. Thank you for watching until the end. If this message connected with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us which point spoke to you most and subscribe to join our growing community. Until next time, keep your heart open and your mind awake, and God bless you, the rare gems.